Good evening, everyone. It is I don't even remember what the date is today. I think it's the 8th or something. No, it's the 9th because 7th was on Friday, Saturday was 6th. So 7th was on Friday, Saturday was the 8th, so it's the 9th. It's Sunday, June 9th, 2019. This is vlog number 6, I think, or 5. One of the two. I just came back from a fantastic weekend at ScareCon in Massachusetts. It was fun. I went with Pat, Kelly, and Andy. It was pretty much our first actual road trip together, and the first time we all shared a hotel. So it was really fun and interesting and nerve-wracking, at least for me, because I seriously thought that, oh gosh, what if we don't travel well together, you know? What if we don't, I don't know what the hell. My anxiety goes in so many directions that it's all irrational, really. But sometimes I think that my anxiety is valid, you know, and I think, well, what if we didn't have a good time this weekend and all that? But the lucky thing was we did. I met the cast of Phantasm, which was pretty awesome. I actually got to take a picture with each of them, and we had a lot of fun. You know, we really did. So I'm back home, back in the burbs, and, you know, I was thinking on the ride back home about the vlogs and what I'm doing, and I'm starting to realize that in every vlog, or most vlogs, except for the Mistress Layla one, I kept saying I'm not going to talk about or advertise what happened with my divorce, my recent divorce. The only divorce I've ever had, guys, before you start thinking, okay? The truth is, I really should talk about it. And the reason for that is because the reality is it did happen. And I don't want to say that they were bad guys or good guys, because it would just make it sound immature. I'm a 42-year-old woman, an adult, and the whole situation was not easy, to be honest. The truth of the matter is, I guess you would have to know, I met my ex-husband in 2004, and we dated for 7 years before we actually got married. Throughout that time, it took about 2 years for me to move in with him, which was probably a good idea, because, I mean, it takes a bit to move in with anyone. You know, you can't just move in with someone. It's a lot. And he asked me to move in back in 2006. And my life changed in that I finally got a job that I actually kept for 8 years, you know, and keeping a job for me was something that eluded me, because I sabotaged all of my chances and blamed it on my anxiety and major depression. At the time, I thought it was bipolar disorder till I was reassessed and found out, no, it was anxiety. It was generalized anxiety disorder with major depressive, but that's another story. The thing is, we were together for a good 15 years, and we got married in 2011. My ex-husband got sick in 2008, or he was actually diagnosed. He was getting sick the whole time, and he had an illness, and it was multiple sclerosis. And the reason why I was leery of talking about this whole thing is because the minute they hear my ex-husband got sick, they resort to, that's why she left. And the reality was, it wasn't. It was the easiest thing to deal with. Yes, it was hard being a caregiver, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, you know, and I was not the most patient person in the world. I mean, I'm not patient to begin with. And yes, I did a lot of yelling and screaming, and it wasn't really at him as it was more about at the disease and what it was doing to him, and how people just are not built to be caregivers, because it is a lot of work. But the truth is, if you love someone, you're going to do that. That's it. I mean, and some people, even if they do love someone, cannot take it. And it is their prerogative not to stay. And I could not blame them. But in my case, it was not the reason why I left. Caregiving was the easiest thing in regards to what was going on in our relationship and our marriage. The truth of the matter is, my ex had a lot of issues, as did I. One of them was that he had an addiction that I will not advertise, because that's his prerogative and his privacy. And it affected our marriage. It affected our marriage very badly. When he made his disclosure, I found out stuff, and it was painful because he had been like this throughout our relationship and waited to tell me 2 years within the marriage, which was painful for me because that meant that what I was living the whole time was a lie. At least for me, it felt like it was. I thought I knew this person and I didn't. And it hurt, and it turned my world upside down, and I became the most horrendous, abusive person you could think of. It was horrible. I am so ashamed of that part of me because it was bad. And I had to go do my own therapy. I had to go back to therapy, actually. I had to go to like an Al-Anon type. He was not an alcoholic. He's not. But I had to go to some sort of type of other 12-step group for survivors of this addiction to deal with my own issues and the fact that I had to understand that this addiction had nothing to do with me. It was never about me. It was about him and his issues that he just did not deal with. And I had to deal with how it affected me all those years. And then there was the issue with his parents. The only thing I could say about his parents, they were racist. There you go. I said it. They didn't want me in his life because I wasn't Jewish. But honestly, when I think about it now, it was a lot more than that. To keep it short, I think they had a lot of issues. And it showed in how my ex-husband was also, the way he was and the way he handled things. And I would tell him I'm unhappy because they did not treat me with respect. They did not want me in his life. And they made it pretty apparent every time. And it was painful. It was so painful because, you know, when you marry someone, they tell you marry the family. And I wanted to be part of it. And I did so much. And I wasn't the best wife in the world, because let's be honest here. But I tried. And I tried very hard. And it was painful. And to not be accepted. And to be treated like this pariah. This thing that got in the way. Man, Smooth, you just grabbed onto my toe. That hurt. You know, my cat's like playing and he just freaking grabbed onto my feet. But it's very painful when you love someone and his family or the family or the parents refuse to see that because all they see is what they want to see. And what they saw was someone who basically made their son get MS. I have no idea how that happened. I don't know how they think that, but that's what they thought. They, you know, I'm wondering if it's a cultural thing because of the superstitions that they had. I called it stupidstitions, but then as a licensed mental health counselor, I have to be culturally competent, so I have to call it superstitions and culture, but the reality is it's too personal for me, so it'd be stupidstitions. It had nothing to do with cultural anything, in my opinion. It had everything to do with there is an issue. And I would tell him I'm unhappy. Let's get out of here. Let's move. Let's move to New Mexico. Seriously, I was in love with New Mexico. Still am. You know, one of these days maybe I'll get a summer home out there because I still want to be part of New Mexico. And he always said, you know, I'm scared because of my illness. I get that, but at the same time, we could have made it, you know, because as long as we were away from them, we could have been us. Unfortunately, he did not want to leave them, who lived 4 blocks away, which was very hard to deal with because I'd always run into them one way or the other, which means half the time eventually it became me trying to avoid running into them, which was ridiculous. You know. So that is a big part of why this ended between us, because he just didn't want to do it. You know that whole thing, happy wife, happy life? You know, I thought that was a crock of shit for the longest, and no, it's not. It's not. I was not happy. I mean, we went through marriage counseling like twice over, and the first time around it seemed to work, and things were going fine, and then he had a slip again, and then I was done, and I didn't realize how done I was until in a feat of desperation, I basically was looking for a way out, and I didn't want to accept that I was, because the last thing I wanted to do was hurt him, and the last thing I thought would happen was this marriage would end, but I didn't realize that the marriage was already dying, and I decided, that's it, I want an open marriage. I'm not going to lie, he was not happy with it, but he went for it, because 50% of it was about me getting mine, because come on, the guy had a better, well, he had an interesting life, and I did not, if you want to go there. He had a better sex life than I did. And secondly, I wanted to get even. So that pretty much tells you the type of addiction he had, so I kind of slipped on that end. I thought that that's all it would be, was just sex. Now, little do I know, the denial that was everywhere, you know. I really just didn't want it anymore. But I wasn't looking either. Things just happened. You know, I wasn't going out there like, hey, I have an open marriage, I want to screw around. It wasn't like that. It was more like, well, I have an opportunity. I did have one experience, and I was honest with him about it. And he was upset, but then he was like, okay. And then that was it. I didn't want to do it again. I was like, you know what? I don't think I want this anymore. Because he was too upset, and I felt like, man, I really hurt him. And I realized I remember what it felt like when that stuff happened with me. And I'm like, you know what? No. So then after that, you know, I was hanging out with my friends, Pat and Kelly, and Nat and I. Nat's one of my besties. Known her since I was 7. We would go to these parties in Suffolk County, where I'm, you know, and the best part about it was that they were cool beings. They were cool people. I can't even tell you how cool that they were. They are. I mean, it's people I hung out with at ScareCon. You know, they're just very fun-loving people who exude this energy. They've been married for 21 years. They exude this energy that is just pure love. And I love the energy. I met them in 2012 doing a show. And they really are just the cutest married couple you could ever run into. I once wrote in a journal entry that their energy was a mixture of cocaine and ecstasy, because you felt so energized near them, but yet you felt so loved and relaxed. And it was like an endorphin rush hanging out with them. It still is. You know, I love hanging out with them. They are both very beautiful together. So that's my Pat and Kelly advertisement. So basically, we hung out. They had the coolest parties. And we would hang out, and it was fun. They had a friend named Andy who had gone through his own stuff that I'm not going to get into, because that part is not my place to go with. And honestly, and sorry, Andy, I never really remembered the guy's name a lot of the time, because of the fact that he was very quiet and I'm oblivious half the time. And Nat remembered his name all the time. And every time we would text about, you know, the friends that we hung out with, I'm like, who's the other guy? He's the artist guy, you know? And Nat would be the one to say, it's Andy, you know, every time. And I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. He's always so quiet, you know? And, one day, it was during Pat's birthday party of 2018 in August. We actually, you know, Nat couldn't come with because she had a funeral that she was dealing with. And we were also supposed to have another friend come with us, because we were going to actually set Andy up with another friend. But she couldn't come because she had the flu. So it was just me. And I had just gotten over a nasty little stomach thing. But I was doing okay. And I drove up there, and it was a great party. And one night, that night, anyway, not one night, I went down to the basement. I was just going to sit on the couch. It's not the basement. They call it the Novelty Lounge. I call it the basement. It's not, because it's a lower level of the house. It's the Novelty Lounge. It's awesome. It really is a lounge. It's like this place. I can't describe it. You have to see it. It's just gorgeous. And it's all of these things that they're just really into novelties. Let's put it that way. They collect a lot of things. And they're very artistic. And they are very creative. I can't even tell you. But when you're there, you feel very relaxed. So I sat on the couch, and I noticed Andy was sitting there. And I think he had been drinking, and, he was drinking, and I was a little intoxicated, but not so bad. I just sat down, and it was dark, so I liked that it was dark. So that was good for me. And he just starts talking. I said, hello. We started talking, and he starts talking about these very personal things, about his past, about loss, the things that he misses. And I listened to him, and some of these stories were they were great and very sexy, and at the same time, the fact that he's just telling me all this personal stuff, I'm like, this dude doesn't really know. I mean, he's seen me at the parties, and we talked maybe for 5 minutes at a time, but he doesn't know me worth Adam, or from Adam, and I don't know him, but he's talking to me about all this stuff, and I'm like, he doesn't know me at all. And so I'm sitting there, I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it. I don't know why, that's ridiculous. And he's telling me all this stuff. So I'm a ridiculous person. That night, then next thing you know, Kelly comes in and interrupts it. And she meant well, because she was like, Ami, are you okay? Because he's talking about a lot of stuff here that's a little on the personal side. Does it bother you? Like, oh, please, girl. I've heard worse in my life. I was a phone sex operator once. Trust me. Which could tell you, I don't know why I'm getting emotional here, which could tell you why she came in to make sure that I was okay with what I was hearing. So after that, we watched the movie. And all of us did. That was the whole point of the party. He was watching his favorite film. And one of his favorites. One of Pat's favorites. It was his birthday. And, it was time, Andy was leaving, and I'm like, okay, Mr. Kinky McKinkster, get home safe, and he starts laughing, and that was it. So later on that night, everybody leaves the house, and I was sleeping over in their Alice in Wonderland room, and it was just me, Pat, and Kelly. And Kelly comes up to me, she goes, do you know why he was telling you that stuff? I'm like, who? I was like, Andy, do you know why Andy was telling you that stuff? And I'm like, 'cause he was drunk? She starts laughing. She's like, yeah, I mean, he was drunk, but he thinks you're sexy. I'm like, Andy thinks I'm sexy. Okay. And she's like, I'm just telling you because, I'm just saying, get that feeling of, you still got it. She wasn't trying to push me to him. They weren't trying to set me up, nothing. She just wanted me to feel good because she knew that I was going through a really tough time. And my marriage was pretty much kaput at this point. And I didn't want to accept that. But she wanted me to feel like, you're still a good-looking chick. You still got it. Even though you're married, you still got it for yourself. Don't worry, And when I think about it now, it's endearing what she did, because the truth of the matter is, for all of those years, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with me? All of those years, I didn't feel beautiful. I felt ugly. I felt like I wasn't worthy of a lot of things, because most of my happiness couldn't exist because I was in the middle of just trying to do for him, and trying to be accepted by parents that would, the truth of the matter was, would never see me as nothing but something that got in their way. And it hurt. So I had no idea that I had the hardest time just seeing that. I have no idea what just happened there, guys. Sorry. I was in the middle of recording that, and here I am getting all emotional. The whole damn thing just stopped working. But truth was, I had no idea that I could be beautiful. You know, I thought that, you know, I was this person that didn't exist. Basically, I was just this person that I was there to live my life, go to school, because I was doing online school, you know, for years, for about 8 years, work at a place that did give me a lot of opportunity. It wasn't mental health, but I worked for a PR agency and marketing agency, and it did give me a lot of opportunities. It wasn't easy working there, but let me tell you, it taught me to have a tough skin. You know, it, I just, oh man, it was just a lot that I wasn't really doing for myself. Because in society they teach you, don't do for yourself, do for the others, right? You can't be happy. You can't make yourself happy. You have to make other people happy, because God forbid you're happy for yourself. You're a selfish cunt. That's basically what they teach you. So, you know, and it took a long time for me to realize that that wasn't true. So, and that changed with a lot of things. That changed when I got my hysterectomy last year and realized, oh shit, you know, I'm not in pain anymore, because I was in pain for 30 years. So when you're not in pain anymore, your life changes. You're like, oh shit, I can do things now that I didn't think I could do before, you know? And my ex-husband was not a bad person. I mean, the reality was, you know, he was there for me for a lot of things. You know, he supported me in school. He did so much for me. So I can't say that he was bad, because he wasn't. He made stupid mistakes and stupid decisions that really hurt me. So, and hurt us. And so that killed the marriage a lot, you know. And I didn't handle things well. I was quite verbally abusive and angry a lot of the time. And this poor guy had to deal with that. And I was not good with a lot of things. So my accountability is there too. So going back to the story of the whole, Kelly said that Andy thought I was sexy. It made me feel, I think it did make me feel that I could be sexy to someone else. I could be actually sexy to anyone, really, but that's not true. I was sexy to someone who actually sat down, you know, actually talked to me about stuff that most people wouldn't talk about to someone they barely ever knew. So he and I became really good friends. And there was a little bit there that was going to lead to, I really want to have a relationship, kind of maybe even a friends with benefits with this guy. Not the most ideal thing to do when you're married, let's be honest. And he wouldn't, because he didn't want to be the type of guy who did that. He really didn't. Not with a married person, especially with his life and the fact that, you know, he was just not that person, and he wasn't. So what happened was, eventually just him and I would just hang out and talk and watch movies, like watch riff tracks, because that's what we watched a lot of, or different movies, or all that stuff. And they were all wonderful, and some of them were funny, and some of them were a little too weird, but you know, it was okay because I got to spend time with him, and we texted every night and every day practically, and it was very nice to have conversations with someone. And yes, I flirted a lot. I'm not going to lie about that. And we did have some interesting text messages that I'm not going to, at least I won't get into that. So in December of 2018, things happened. And between us, me and Andy. And after that, I started to realize and started to accept the fact that this marriage between me and my ex-husband it just wasn't anymore. So flash forward to February, I asked for the divorce. and it didn't go well, obviously, because since when does a divorce go well? And basically, he didn't handle it well, of course, and he ended up checking himself in to a hospital because of it. And then with all the treatment he was receiving, and I'm talking about the physical treatment for his MS, he got sick, ended up with pneumonia, and I had to be at the hospital. I visited him at the hospital when he checked himself in too, before anybody even says anything. And I understand that I am considered the wrong side of the divorce. But sometimes shit happens, and sometimes there is no fixing it, no matter what you do. There isn't. And you just have to know when to make your exit. And even though the exit I made wasn't the most ideal and the most conventional, I'll probably get a lot of lashings on here about, oh, you're a horrible person, how could you do that to someone who's sick, blah, 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 blah. You don't know what the fuck my life was like, and you don't know my story. It's like when people say, oh my God, how could she stay in that relationship when she's getting her ass kicked by this husband or ex-husband or whatever? They don't know her story. They don't know how fucking scary it is. So for them to even say shit like that, they can just fuck themselves. So I'm going to say it to you guys who are going to judge me, fuck you. Because you don't know my story. You don't know what I was going through. And quite frankly, if I had stayed in the marriage, I would have become the most resentful, hateful wife I think anyone could come up with. And it would have ended anyway. Only it would have ended a lot worse than it did. I don't talk to my ex-husband anymore unless it's to pay him back for what I owe him. Because I'm not going to lie, you know, he did help me out with stuff. And I appreciated that. So I'm paying him back. I'm not the person who's going to be like, oh my God. No, I didn't take him for everything he had. Unlike the ex-in-laws, they all thought that I was going to do that. I mean, it was a horror show with them at the end. They blamed me for all of it when they couldn't even see their part in it. And they really refused to, because they just thought that they were in the right, you know, and they thought that I was this person who never had a relationship before my ex-husband. And my ex-husband did stand up for me, and he was pissed at his parents, but he was pissed at himself too, because he didn't do what needed to be done on that end. So sometimes marriages don't work out, and sometimes they don't end in the most conventional way. And we're all human, as am I. And I am sorry that I hurt my ex-husband very much. I am. But I am not sorry that I ended the marriage. And I'm not sorry that I finally did something for myself. I'm not sorry that I'm living for my own happiness for once. And above all, I am not sorry that I met Andy, and I am not sorry that I'm in love with him. But this time, I am going to live for my own happiness, because that's what was missing in my life. For once in my life, I'm doing for me, you know, and it's something I've never done before. And people will judge. Whatever. That's the type of world we live in. I'm on social media. Welcome to the Thunderdome, as I like to say. But that's my story, guys and gals. And you can say whatever the fuck you want. I'm happy with my decision. So there you go, folks.